Hey there everyone, and welcome to some more Tower Heroes level guides. In this video we're going to look at Chapter 3 levels 11 to 15. If you saw me look down there I had to remind myself what we're doing here. Yes, this is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. If you watch my last two videos you would have heard me going like, it's not that hard. You just put these heroes in and it'll do the job. From here on we start to have to put a bit more thought into it. You need slightly stronger heroes, that kind of stuff. First up we have level 311. This is split into melee enemies and range enemies on the left and right respectively. On the left, quick note, the spikes you won't see them going off. This is like a pre-release version of the game and some things are a little bit buggy. At this particular time the spikes were not showing when you did auto battle. So the spikes do go off, and I think on the left probably the best way to do this is, rather than using the stun generator thing, is actually just tanking up behind the spikes, because the spikes are really useful. There are hordes of enemies which come through there, and I guess the idea is like you can stun them and then kind of take them out while they're stunned, but the spikes just decimates them. So I like to put a defender behind the spikes and then a couple of other heroes behind that to help tank any enemies that go through, because like I said, there's hordes of them, so sometimes there'll be ones which go through and you need a bit more firepower there as well. On the right hand side it's relatively tricky to build up for the range enemies here. If you're putting too many heroes out on the left, you won't necessarily have enough cost to put heroes out on the right. But you can see I've got Silver and Canos there, and then you need something else to help them, not just those alone. So I went with Dura, but most other range heroes would be fine. And then towards the end, you actually need a healer because there's going to be some damaging range enemies. So let's move into the battle itself, where you can see it going on. I am still using low-level heroes at this point. I think one of the clips in this video I'm not going to be using low-level heroes, but we'll get to that when it comes. So it starts on the left with some enemies coming in there, and I put out the defender. So I start with Felwyn. If you remember in the screenshot we just looked at, there was Hail. That's because Felwyn dies, and then Hail will also nearly die. Having 3 defenders that you could kind of cycle through may even help, but I did it with 2. So Felwyn does a good job at the beginning here. You can see she's not taking much damage, and the enemies are dying off to the spikes. This is where the spikes are just really good, that you can put down those 2 heroes, this massive horde of enemies which is coming in now, they're going to actually die off, and this is where Felwyn actually dies, but that got you through the first waves of enemies on the left. So now on the right we can put out, I used Duro because I wanted to see if it was possible, as she's a very expensive hero to deploy, and I was able to work it out with the cost. So having all 3 range heroes out there will mean that you get cleared out quite nicely, those enemies. And you don't need the healer yet, so you can hold off on that. Just put up range heroes, and then you go back to the left-hand side. So this is where you can put down Hail, and he's going to do a good job of tanking, especially because he's water. This is where the tougher enemies come. You can see those big dudes coming in, and I use his skill, which I hadn't upgraded really, so it wasn't that useful. But it got you through those tougher enemies, and that's actually it for the left-hand side. So it's just that additional powerful wave that comes through, and then on the right-hand side, this is now when the damaging enemies come through and you need the healer. So yeah, hopefully that kind of tells you all the important bits of this level. And how to get through it, let's move on to the next level. 312 and 313 are very similar levels, with 313 basically being a tougher version of it. Here, what you really have to worry about is the bombers. So if you look on the left-hand side, you can see there's a bomber there. They go down the central path in a straight line. That's the only line which they take. So you need to avoid putting heroes on that line, and you want to make sure there's a couple of range heroes either side that are going to take out those bombers that go through. So I've got Sagus and Silver for that. Now, what you're looking at is actually the final setup, so I've got Canos there in the middle, but he's not going to be there at the beginning. It's going to be Sagus and Silver. They're the important ones for taking down the bombers as they come through, and then you don't want to put anything to the left-hand side in that central line. Then it's just a case of a couple of melee heroes either side, take them out, and perhaps a healer behind to keep those front melee heroes alive. I went overboard and I put down more heroes than I needed to for this. I think this was in an earlier stage of my recording where I was like recording some of these levels, and I think I started kind of basically from this point, and I didn't do minimalist approach to things always, so that's what we have with this. Anyway, so start off, there's the melee enemies, so you start with Remus. Remus is just generally a good go-to start, and he's going to take down these wolves as they come through. I want to put down Sagus as well there to help him take them out, because they do come a little bunched up, and Remus only blocks one at a time. So Sagus down, and then you also want Silver down, because now the bombers come. and these two together facing left are going to take down these bombers, and they're both very safe from them. They're not going to get blown up by them. If you don't know what the bombers do, it's like when they hit the square where the hero is on, then they drop their bomb and basically kill that hero. It does massive damage, and then they rush to the exit. So very, very, very bad if you're not set up correctly. You need the heroes in the right positions. So anyway, from here we put down the melee heroes either side. I put down additional ones, and it's all a little bit overkill. But you've got some tougher enemies coming through. Not too bad, because you have got Sagus and Silver supporting the melee heroes anyway. And you can put down a healer, as I just did, to support, to heal up those two front ones. Here it's Velka and Remus. But yeah, from this point it should be okay, because there's more enemies, but you've got all your heroes down, so it should be alright. The next level is going to be tougher. So now with 313, the bombers are not just going to come down the central line, they're actually going to come down the central 3 lines, 3 rows that is. So it's only safe to put heroes at the very top or the bottom. Also to note, I found that with Evo 1 heroes, the starter heroes, they don't actually quite kill the bombers well enough. You either need to have them slightly higher level, or with equipment, mainly the might set equipment will improve their power. And so, yeah, I am using this with slightly, with equipped heroes, Sagus and Silver I'm talking about basically. So what I found was the best way to do this was to use Sagus and Silver on the right hand side at those two little pedestal bits, and both facing left, which means that they don't support each other. I tried them facing each other, but then basically what happened was they only then shoot one square to the left. So as the bombers come in, they will only get one shot on them, and the second shot, they'll basically both attack the bomber once, and then when they would both attack the bomber the second time, that's the point where the bomber's dropping the bomb. So yes, they can kill it at that point, but the bomber still drops the bomb, so they need to actually be facing to the left, and then basically Sagus can take down the bombers, Silver can with the use of her skill. So it's tight, can about do it, just about do it, and that is with equipment as well. If you've got stronger heroes, then this is fine, but trying to do it low level, it gets a little bit tight on this level. So yeah, the rest of it I will just say while we're watching the clip. So yes, I'm still using the low level heroes, they're still Evo 1, but this is pushing it on this level, and in fact the next clip won't be with low level heroes. So start with Sagus and Silver, because it starts with bombers. And so for the central line, they both work together, it works out very nicely. This is when Silver can get somewhere towards her skill, so she can just about take down that first one, and then use the skill to take down the second. That's what I found. You can then put Kanos up at the top, who he's going to chip down these bombers and basically make it a lot easier for the two on the right hand side to take them out. So from here it's pretty safe, it's just that first bit. So Velka off over at the side. I put Velka down here, she actually survives the whole battle. If you noticed, I didn't use any healers. And it's now safe at this point to put Remus down on the right. You don't want to use the square just to the left of Remus, because that's where the bombers will probably go off. But the square where Remus is, it's safe just back there, and it means he can take down these wolves that are going through. And then I've got the other range attackers chipping down the wolves and stuff, so it all works out like this. From here I found this was the most efficient way to do it, and the battle's already over. It's just a lot of little enemies and the bombers which are a pain. With 314 we're looking at a map where the heroes constantly get hurt. This is the same for 315. Now, in this clip, unfortunately, this was literally the first clip I saved, I think, that I was going to make these videos with, and I just did the auto battle. I didn't do a low level variant or anything like that, I just did the auto battle, and so I am using my high level heroes. But I can still talk about how you would do this in concept, and we're just going to watch the clip of me doing it. So the heroes are constantly getting hurt, which means it is a lot easier with stronger heroes. If you use the low level heroes, the low star heroes, they'll die off fairly fast, and it's very much on the healers, how good your healers are at keeping them alive. If you use the high level heroes, basically it's not a problem. You just need the healers there, and then it's a joke. So I'm using the high level heroes, but there's a way you can kind of pick apart this map to actually get through it, I think, with low level heroes. And the general setup of it is you have the enemies coming in the 4 paths, that is the 2 top ones and then the 2 underneath. So you just need to protect those two bits. You want to pack all your heroes together, put some healers in there to keep them alive, and then, it works. So yes, as you can see, my high level heroes, they do, they are higher level, and they're going to do a better job than you would normally do. I do start off with Remus, so I put Remus down to take out these first enemies, basically to help with CP a bit, and because he's very cheap to deploy, and as you can see, his health is just plummeting. So then I put down Roland. Now, I don't think this is the most efficient way to do it. What you'll notice is they're all coming in on the left-hand side. There's actually a lot of enemies coming in on the left-hand side. You get 21 enemies coming on this left-hand side, before then 19 enemies coming on the right-hand side, before then the final bit, where they come everywhere. So actually what you can do here is put down a lot of stuff on the left-hand side, probably do like a defender at the back and a melee attack in front, or something like that, and then basically a healer, and that should probably cover the left hand side, and then you can do the same on the right hand side where you then put them down, or you can do something like I've just done with 2 melee attackers facing each other on each side, and then that will cover each side. Syrian is a great healer for this because he heals multiple. I think if you go with a single target healer, you have a really hard time here. You can see the health is dropping barely on these 5 and 6 star heroes, but on the lower star heroes it does drop a fair amount. I put a second healer in for good measure, and yeah, this is the end point, so they come from the left again. You've got some enemies coming like that, and then finally we'll have a wave where it's 4 big enemies coming on all sides. So I think if you can divide it and you can focus on the left, then focus on the right, it probably is paced well enough that you can build up with the weaker heroes and do it that way. I didn't do the most efficient way with this, and having Syrian is going to make it a lot easier too. Lastly, we have 315. This is another map with the mist, so your heroes will constantly be hurt. I did this with low-level heroes, as I think the last one could be done, and this one's similar in the way that it's split into 2 sides. The last one, it wasn't obvious that it was split into 2 sides, but it basically was. This one, it's split into 2 sides, and you actually have healing pads to help you do the job. So I don't have the ideal setup here. I actually didn't notice the healing pad over on the left-hand side for some reason, so you should definitely use that. And so where Syrian is in the middle, I should actually have put him over on the left-hand side, facing to the right, and then shifted those 3 heroes on the left up by 1. Then Syrian would be healing them, and he wouldn't have to heal himself because he'd constantly be topped up. It would basically counteract the mist. And on the right-hand side, what you can do is put a couple of heroes onto the healing pads, put a healer in there for good measure as well, and a second damage dealer. Most of the enemies will be coming on the left-hand side, I think. It's either most in terms of number-wise, or they just come in bigger waves. So you want a defender on the left-hand side for sure. But otherwise, this isn't actually too bad. And I think probably the previous level wasn't too bad if I'd actually given it a proper chance. So you want to start on the right-hand side with basically a damage dealer who can block 2, put them on the healing pad and it'll be okay. It doesn't let up like the last map where it was like all on the left and then all on the right. This comes at both sides right from the beginning. But you can put down the cheap heroes. Felwyn does a great job there of defending on the left-hand side, and a healer from the left early on is very important. You can see I've put down a second damage dealer on the right on the healing pad. Range attackers don't do as much damage, but it means that you don't need a healer for quite a while on the right-hand side, so you can build up with another damage dealer before then having to put the healer out. So now this has shored up the right-hand side. There's enough damage output there to get through these enemies. There's basically quite small groups of enemies, but there are some tougher ones in there. Those big guys do a lot of damage, and they take quite a lot to kill off. On the left-hand side, you'll see this one damages my Felwyn quite a lot. I only just take it down before then the next wave comes in. She's getting hurt quite a bit, so I have to use the skill to heal her up. So yeah, it's relatively challenging, but well within what the low-level heroes can do. And if I put Syrian in a place where he didn't have to keep healing himself up, he would have done a better job as well. So we should be fine from here. The right-hand side, this is the last big wave, so I saved the skill for this point to try and help take down those enemies. I also used Umara's skill to power up Victoria, so she can do better damage. And then the left-hand side, this is now their tough wave with a lot of hounds and stuff. And I didn't expect Felwyn to die here, but she actually does. Just about gets to that point where she gets killed. Because there's another enemy in there hidden that I didn't see. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you in a video soon.